So yeah, that was cool. Let's all right, we can still go. Um, let me just check it with Megan to make sure she's still good. Um, but assuming that she is good, let's go to we'll just keep the same number. And we'll call this SQLDELIGHT. Now, disclaimer. Um, I have never used this. I just know that it exists. So, unlike Room, where I was able to fly through it and talk about it, um, you're gonna see me learn along the way. So let's look up SQLDELIGHT Android. Whoops, not SQLite. SQL, whoops, Delight. Yeah, I thought that while we're looking at persistent storage, it would be cool to look at a comparison. So let me share this with all of you. Um, let's see. So SQLDelight generates type-safe Kotlin APIs for your SQL statements. It verifies your schema, statements, and migrations at compile time, and provides IDE features like autocomplete and refactoring, which make writing and maintaining SQL simple. So there's multiple platforms. It's got for SQLite, we've got Android, native, JVM, etc. Download the plugin of SQLDelight. It will help you. Okay, I can look into that. Um, let's do that first, real quick. Let's go to plugins. SQLDelight. I'm not really sure what the plugin gets me, but we'll add it. I don't know if I'll need to restart, but okay. So let's follow getting started on Android. So first apply the Gradle plugin to your project's top level build.gradle. I can do that. Copy and pasting, my favorite part of any new um, project. Uh, I'm not going to get fancy about the versions just yet. Um, I want to get this working. I can do that, exactly. I can also do this. I can apply the plugin. Although that might be interesting because this doesn't use... Okay, so I assume this would just be ID this. Um, okay, and then let's do a sync and let's make sure this doesn't yell at me for anything yet. Put your SQL statements in a .sq file under source main SQLDelight. Typically, the first statement in the SQL file creates a table. From this, SQLDelight will generate a database Kotlin class with an associated schema object that can be used to create your database and run your statements on it. Um, Doing this also requires a driver, which SQLite provides implementations of. So we need the Android driver for this. Okay, let's also add that real quick. Um, and then we will write some SQL. So we'll see how that goes. Time to wear the DBA hat. Um, I can copy the SQL code for creating the table from the room schema. What a great point. Well, I've already changed branches, so I technically don't have it in front of me. Um, but I should add that because actually I should add that back because um, I should persist it because I'll want that eventually. So let's let's add that. Um, and we can use that helpful cheater. Um, I've also actually said, Dev, in my past life, I would be a database administrator because I love databases and SQL. I think it's just very fun problems to solve. Most of my, uh, Dan, I'll show you. It's not the, we're not going to paste the JSON. Inside the JSON file is the SQL that I want. Um, but yeah, I love SQL. Like my most of my reputation on Stack Overflow comes from the MySQL tag. I'm like top 3% on like MySQL users on Stack Overflow. Um, and I've written actually outside of my Android stuff, I once wrote a 4 or 5 part blog post series on database normalization. It was very thorough, going through all the normal forms of uh, databases. Let me see if I can find it. What was it called? Effective database management. I think that's what we called it. Effective database design. That's what I called it. Ooh, Prince found it. Prince helped review all of these. We still lived together when I wrote these. I remember sitting on the couch going over all my ideas. Um, Prince was the inspiration because like Prince always came to me with database design ideas, and I was finally like, I'm gonna write them all down. Um, so okay, but let's go back to this while it's building. So inside source main SQLDELIGHT is where we put the file. And we can call it whatever. Let's call ours. Okay, so source main, put a new directory here, SQLDELIGHT, and we'll put a file in here called task.sq. Oh wait, and that was that part of the plugin? There's SQLDELIGHT file table. So let's call it table, and then we'll call it task. Okay, that doesn't work. I actually need to. Oh wait, task.sq. That worked. I didn't really get anything inside of it, but that's fine. Um, our build is still running in the background. Oh, I probably also need. I never put export schema to true up here, and I wonder if I needed to do that. Oh wait. Oh well. Coincidentally, SQLDELIGHT yelled at me and said, SQLDELIGHT files must be placed in a package directory. Okay, hold on. One thing at a time. We're gonna change this to export schema true. Um, Okay, so they actually specify, so inside source main SQLDELIGHT, I need like a package directory. Um, so let's do that. Let's do new directory here. Um, actually, how do I do this? I guess this is what I want. But can I do, nice. And we'll put that in there. Okay, so let's run a build again. Um, nope. I don't know what the nope was for. Did you think that me creating a directory that way was going to fail? Because I'll be honest, I also thought that was going to fail. Um, but um, apparently not. Actually, that's a good question on whether this is actually multiple folders or if it's just one folder. Um, I'll actually have to like open up the file explorer to check because I don't know. There might be a shouldn't be under the Java folder. No. So if we look at their docs, let me zoom in on this. The file is source main SQLDELIGHT, but then they put like a sort of package directory. Um, I don't know if it needs to map to like one of my packages. I didn't think so, but um, okay, our schema file is built. So let's just close this for a second because I want to see something. So if I do source app source main. Okay, so it did it did make this one folder. It did do exactly what I thought it would do. So let's just do that. Is there a way to make and cd into a directory? I've never learned if there's a bash shortcut for that. So I just kind of just do it. So that's where I want this to map their docs. I have to alias it. Okay, that makes sense. I figured I could roll my own thing if I wanted to. Um, I also, you can't like make nested directories like recursively. At least not that I'm aware of. I can't do like test A, B, C. Um, there is. I would love to know what that is. What? Oh, that's really cool. All right, thank you. Thank you for helping with that. I nah, how much time have I wasted? Oh God. Exactly 12 hours ago. Makes sense. Um, okay, so we've got this. So we need the create table statement. So this was the hack we were talking about. If I go to my one.json file that Room generated, you can see that it has this create table JSON. So we're just going to copy this. Um, but I realized that it's not going to be one-to-one because, uh, wait, why is this yelling at me already? Oh, does it need, is this like a real thing? I thought this was a comment, but do I need to put like a package? Maybe this is what it meant by a package name. Uh, no, that's just a comment. Um, I might just write their SQL as it is, instead of trying to copy the room one because it's not going to be exactly what I want. So let's do create table task. Um, we're going to have, what do we have? ID, text, primary. Is the primary key not null? Is that the order? God, it's been so long. Oh, it could be missing the semicolon. Okay, let's. Well, there's a couple things. The backticks in the room version don't need to be there. Um, oh God. So this we changed to task. Um, the backticks just get, can I do this? Removed. Okay, this works. It was probably yelling at me because of the like string formatter thing that was inside the uh name. So create table if not exist task, text not null, text not null, primary key, ID. Okay. So we also probably don't need this if not exists. Um, but we can leave it there. So that's our hack. We take stuff right from room. And so we can actually do the same with the query. So inside here, we should have like a, oh, our query doesn't show in here? Insert or replace into does, but not query. Actually, they don't mention a query call either. They just mention insert. Do I need that? Huh. Let's keep going. I'm just reading the docs real quick. So that all makes sense. SQL statements inside a .sq file can be labeled to have a type-safe function rated for them available at runtime. So we could have this like select all, which is select star from hockey player. We could have insert, which is insert into. Um, And then we can have insert full player object. Interesting. Files with labeled statements in them will have queries file generated from them that matches the .sq file name. Putting the above into player.sq generates player queries.kt. And then to do that, we need to wrap the driver made above. That's it. Okay, so let's start with copying this over and then replacing it with our actual calls. So select all will be select star from task. Insert full task object. Actually, let's just call this insert task. So we can do insert into task, and then we put in here ID, description, scheduled date. Okay, is that it? Is it that simple? Let's do a build, and we'll find out if anything yells at me. And then what we can do is, I guess probably in the same, for now, in the same package, because I called it local, we'll make a SQLDELIGHT task list repository. Um, so let me see. So we get, in reality, the database and driver above should be created a single time and passed around using your favorite dependency injection service. Okay. Okay. I think I understand. I'm going to copy this code because this might be relevant. Um, but we'll put that in our data module with everything else. Did we build it? Did it build successfully? I think it did. Okay, so let's start with that dependency injection stuff. Let's go into our data module. Is that what I called it? I did. Nice. So here, let's do at provides. We'll also make this at singleton. I guess if we wanted to be certain, but um, I think this should also be. Um, let's do provide SQLDELIGHT database. This will have our application context, but this returns database. And I think it's this one. I think that is what SQLDELIGHT generated for us. So we'll get our driver. Ooh, can we use... This will be interesting. If I use the same database name, will it pull from... Will it confuse it? Will it be the... Let's give it a new database entirely. So we don't have to think about that. Clash of Gods. Let's give it a new database entirely. Okay. Sounds like a migration nightmare. Yeah, probably. So we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, and then return database driver. I mean, it probably wouldn't be why SQLDELIGHT, just because we want to try it out. So we actually already implemented a room database earlier tonight. That was our big thing. And now we're just looking at SQLDELIGHT for a comparison. Yeah, that is one of the reasons. I don't know if I'll merge this code into my project, but it's really just to try it out. I've never used it before. Okay, so we can provide SQLDELIGHT database. We could probably do a similar thing as like it looks like we could So the same way we had this provides task DAO, we could also create like a provides and then do a fun provide um, task queries, which will take like the database, which will be database. And we could have this return task queries. And so here we'll do return database dot task queries. So this is kind of a similar thing. And then what this all means by adding this hilt dependency for our task queries, what this all means is we can now go into our repository class, and this can have a task queries parameter injected into it. So, fetching all tasks returns a flow. This is a good question. If I do task queries dot select all, that gives me some query object. And there's execute as list and stuff like that. Let's check the SQLDELIGHT docs to see if they have coroutines extensions, and of course they do. Look at that. So to consume a query as a flow, depend on the coroutines extensions artifact and use the extension method it provides. So we can do select all and then do as flow. Okay, so let's do that. So let's copy this implementation. We'll go into our build.gradle file. They have support for paging too. Yeah, that's really nice. And we'll paste this in here. Do sync. And so now I can do select all dot as flow. And then I can do map to list. Is that what I want? So what will this give me? This will give me a flow of list T. Okay, and then from here I can do a map, which will give me a task list. And then from here, we'll do the same thing as earlier. We'll do domain tasks. So what do we get here? Aha. So persist or okay. So a flow from a broadcast receiver. I love it. So I want to take the SQLDELIGHT task and map it to um, my task. But the problem is the way this is written here is right, time for type alias, or we can just call this persistable task. The same way we did with room. Now, I guess that's kind of weird because like that's also gonna match a class that I already have in room. So I don't know if I want to like, would it be super weird to call this SQLDELIGHT task? I think I normally wouldn't do that. Um, but for sake of naming convention, it's what I'm going to do here. Um, okay, so we're going to map this. So here we'll do, um, we want to do SQLDELIGHT task to task. Oh, and then we're also going to need our same date formatting as earlier. I'm just going to copy this. Um, I'm not too worried about like good practices here because I don't think we're gonna merge this SQLDELIGHT stuff. So I'm fine with duplicating it. Um, but this way we have just a way to compare the two. And maybe I'll make the pull request so people can compare it and look at it. But again, uh, task dot to persistable task. And this will be SQLDELIGHT task. Here, return. Oh, can I create? Yes, I can. Nice. ID, this ID, description will be this dot description, and scheduled date will be persistent date formatter dot format, and this dot scheduled date. The other question, I guess we'll find out when we run this. Does anyone know if the database inspector works if you use SQLDELIGHT? Because I don't know if that's true. Oops, now hold on. Task list dot map, and then here we'll do SQLDELIGHT task to task. Return or result dot success domain test. Recap. So what we are basically what we did tonight is we added the room persistence library for Android. And now we are trying a separate persistence library called SQLDELIGHT, which is from Cache App. Let me share that in case no one has seen it, but I'm actually not sure if I posted it before. So we added that, which is basically we take this SQL file and we write the information to create a table and the queries that we're going to run. And now from that, it auto-generated a bunch of files. And I have this interface called a task list repository that I'm implementing the SQLDELIGHT version of. So here, this consumes this task queries, which is created from this task SQL file. And I'm implementing the add task and fetch task methods to interact with that SQLDELIGHT query. And then we're going to run the app and try it out and see if it works. So that's what's coming up next. Well, so here we'll do task queries dot insert task task dot to principal task, and then here we'll do return result dot unit. I believe that is where Jake Martin works again. Yes, he was at Google, and I believe he's now back. I know he's at Square, but I don't know if he's on Cash App in particular. Cash App is like a subset of Square, so. But he is one of the main contributors to this. If you look at the GitHub repo, he is listed as one of the contributors. So okay, but we did that. So let's do, do okay, hold on. So if I run this right now, actually, well this will probably fail because of our migration thing. But that's fine. Because actually what I need to do then is I need to go to our repositories module. And then here, I want this to return SQLDELIGHT task list repository. Wait for this to build again, that's my fault. Yeah, yeah, they're doing a lot of multi-platform stuff, which is really cool. I'd love to learn about it someday. Yeah, well, there are lots of incredible people in the Android community building a lot of great open source tools, like yourself. Don't discount yourself. I know we like to put certain people on a pedestal because they've made a multitude of libraries that are like the backbone of so many apps out there, but I think there's still plenty of other people out there making incredible libraries that are driving the community forward that are just as valuable as Jake. So um, that's how I'm going to phrase that sentence. Um, don't count yourself short or think that you are not as valuable to the community. Um, the libraries like the ones you've built are just as important as everything he has worked on. Um, there's a lot of people who drive the community forward, and it's really great. All right, why is this slow all of a sudden? Probably branches changing or maybe something didn't get cached, but and that was a little petty, the way I phrased that. Um, exactly. Like I don't say it in a way to discount any of the work that Square and its employees have done. Obviously, libraries like Retrofit and OKHTTP are the backbone of the Android industry, without a doubt. But I think I don't like putting people on like individual people on giant pedestals like that. Um, right, like it's Princess Point, like hero worship is a bad thing. Um, I think we can applaud someone's work, but people definitely get like revered as like gods. I've seen like at IO people like the amount of people who line up to meet him, and it's just like it's not to say that he hasn't had such an incredible impact. It's mostly just that like a lot of other people have too, and I don't want to discount that. And you look at this, like there's 108 different people have contributed to SQLDelight. Um, that is over 100 people who deserve equal credit for creating what is a really great tool. Um, but we tend to lump one person into a lot of those Square libraries, and it's not my favorite thing to do. But all right, let's try this library out. So we see an empty screen, which was to be expected because we're using our SQLDelight library now. So let's test this. Um, that worked. So, and that should be storing via SQLDelight. So the question was, will the database inspector work? And I want to say yes, right? Because yeah. Ooh, interesting. So we could see our other database, which is closed. You can see it's closed, which makes sense. Um, because it's not working. So now this is the one that's open, which is our SQLDelight task. If we click on this table, we can see our test task that we just created. So yeah, that worked. Um, so let's commit this. So I will say this, like, looking roughly at the times of our stream, that was way faster. And I don't know if it's because I spent less time talking and explaining myself, um, or there was just less code. Um, I also thought the inspector was built for room databases because actually, speaking of Jake, I remember when it came out, Jake complained about the fact that it didn't work with SQLDelight. I remember seeing that as something he posted on Twitter and how he wished there was ways for other tools to hook into it. I don't know. Someone told me to install a SQLDelight plugin, and I don't know if that plugin is why this works. That's entirely possible as a guess. Um, yeah, it might also be true that there's more capabilities with Room, uh, but it's definitely for reading from the database. This is great. So that's cool. Live updates work. We can find out. Uh, yep. You like my little message? I don't know if you could read it. Um, but yes, live updates work too. And then I assume this would work. Yeah, the delete works too. Um, switching to SQLDelight. Yeah, that was really nice actually. Going full Kotlin multi-platform. Yeah, I would like to try out some mobile stuff or multi-platform stuff sometime. Um, oh yeah, that was the other thing. So, oh my God, how did I not show that off? Um, That's a great point that Dan just made. So if I look at my past DAO, um, I can run from this, like from here, I can run this in the database inspector. There's like in the Android Studio gutter, you get the opportunity to run queries right from it. Um, so with Room, if I was running on Room, I could write out some code here and then run it in the database inspector right away, and see what would come back and stuff. But it looks like that sort of thing doesn't work. I can't like on this file here. I don't think I can do that. But maybe there's an opportunity for that in the future. Uh, you could bet. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. The you can bet thing. Oh no, I can do it. I know I can do it with the right table name. What I meant tracks is there's no like helper thing inside the gutter in Android Studio for me to click a button. But I suppose I could just copy it because it's the raw SQL in here. Um, so like I could do that. Uh, okay, so my thoughts, not that anyone asked, um, but I guess from the code perspective, it's a little easier than Room, because um, well, actually, if I look at this side by side, um, actually, this is actually a really good thing to discuss. So if we look at the repository, um, they're identical, um, minus like some syntax points here, right? Like as flow, etc. But this is effectively identical. Um, so like there's that. Um, but in general, like Room also required three other now do Realm. Oh god. Room also required three other Kotlin classes I had to create. I had to create the entity, I had to create the DAO, I had to create the database. But with SQLDELIGHT, I just made my one SQL file. And then there's the hilt stuff, the dependencies that we had to add. Um, you might need to create converter too for Room. Maybe, depending on what I do. Um, I also don't know. I also have not done a super fancy database implementation here, so I don't know how nice um, SQLDELIGHT is for like words for like migrations or for having multiple tables that reference each other. There's definitely a lot of niche database topics that we didn't get into. But strictly speaking, from uh, implementing a single table, that was really interesting. Um, I didn't know performance of Realm was that bad. Um, actually, speaking of an interesting fact of like putting people on pedestals, I also find it's very funny sometimes how like people who like join in the community, there are people who can have a really big impact, but they still don't reach everybody. And I remember one time I went to a talk on the Realm database, and I remembered this speaker, and I didn't know anything about them until like years later. I'm like, why does this name sound familiar? And the talk was from Don Felker, who runs the Fragmented podcast, who's also a huge voice in the Android community. And I was just like, this guy ran a podcast that every Android developer listened to, and I had no idea who he was. I was like, so it's very interesting. Like, there's just how paths different cross, and that's why I like to, as much as I put out there, I never like assume anyone's gonna know who I am or have seen my content because that's just not how anything works. Um, but to be fair, I've never really met someone who didn't know who Jake Martin was. But the one time I met him, I like kind of like pretended that I didn't. I was just like, I like asked him what his name was, like you would normally do when you meet someone at a conference. I didn't just be like, "Oh my God, you're Jake Martin." I'm just like, "Oh, I'm Adam. What's your name?" Yeah. I've actually heard from Realm, like, I remember, I think it was in that talk that, sometimes people put, like, they can run Realm on the main thread, and it's that quick, which I find really interesting. Um, okay, so I have to clean up the stream history, which I know is a thing I will do. But we looked at migrations in Room. We looked at, do we want to look at, just for comparison's sake, do we want to look at migrations in SQLDELIGHT? Um, let's look at migrations in SQLDELIGHT just for comparison's sake. So let me run this and add a couple test rows. Um, and let's go back to our app inspector. Um, oops, I have to wait for this to run. Um, yeah, let's look at, let's add, what's the word? Okay, let's look at migrations just for completion and comparison's sake. So, um, the .sq file always describes how to create the latest schema in an empty database. If your database is currently on an earlier version, migration files bring those databases up to date. If the driver supports it, migrations are run to transaction. You should not surround your migrations in begin and transaction, as this will cause a crash with some drivers. Oh, no, no. I don't think you were wrong. I don't think you were wrong. You just, the way you phrased that gave me an opportunity to go down the rabbit hole. Um, but like I said, like I recognize like they are a person who has contributed invaluable things to our community, and I'm not discounting that. Um, I try not to play into the jokes about all the other stuff. No, I don't think that you were or were wrong in any way. You gave me an opening to word vomit all of these feelings that I have about it, and so that's what I did. Okay, so the first version of the schema is one. Migration files are named version to upgrade from .sqm. So to migrate to version 2, put statements in 1.sqm. So wait, is that it? So we just add this alter table in 1.sqm. There's no way it's that easy, right? Right? So hold on. Let's go to so let's put a new file in here. 1.sqm. And so here we're going to do alter table SQLDELIGHT task, add column, new migration column, string. In add column, can you do, or text, can you do default value? No table found. That might make sense because it's in a different file. Migration files go in. So these SQL statements are run by database.schema.migrate. Do I have to run it? Run it without the default value? See what happens? Okay. I'm always down to see what happens. See, that's the other thing about Jake is like when I hear him talk about these things, like he has definitely said, and Prince and I have had this conversation. He's definitely said some things out there that I don't agree with, and I don't like the way he phrases it. But I've also heard him talk about that, like he's just like everyone else out there. He wants to build cool shit and he wants to share it with people. And he recognizes that. And so, he's a pretty kind person for a lot of the things I've seen. And the one time that I did get to meet him, um, what was the second half of that? I got distracted because my screen changed. Hold on. Oh, but talking about just black boxes. And yeah, so like, but so it's, I don't remember where I was going to take that, but wow, my ADHD was in full force right there because I had something I wanted to say about that. Um, but I also think that's like why it's so interesting sometimes why we put people on big pedestals because when we realize that people we look up to don't know shit either, then I just all of a sudden realize like, oh, why did I have this vision in my head that this person is like better than me? Like we're the same. We're all the same. All of us. Like none of us are experts. We're all just figuring it out. Some people figure it out faster than others. Some people have been, but the only reason that is because I've been burnt by the same mistakes a million times over. I'm not like better because I know how to do something. I ran into the exact same problems. I'm just older, or I've done it more. But like, it doesn't mean I'm like inherently like better or whatever. Like we're all the same. But I think it's just after so long of him building all of these great tools, I think it just kind of happens. I don't know. Okay, so to WebStrike's point, so without that, we just got null as the default value, which is my fault because I didn't specify text not null. Um, I wonder what would happen if I, well, now it might not do that. So, yes, yes. The first step to imposter syndrome is to stop thinking. I mean, imposter syndrome, the idea that you are the imposter, comes from the idea that, like, everyone around you is, like, better and doesn't have the same problems. Once you break that barrier, um, it's game over. Like, your confidence shoots through the roof. At least that's what has happened for me. Um, why can't I see my database now? I don't know why I lost my database. But okay, actually, so while we did see the null or whatever, let me just run this again. Um, but this was also really quick. And I guess technically a little faster than the room migrations because um, we didn't have to deal with like exporting schema and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, uh, that's kind of cool. So I wonder if hmm, yeah, no, I don't have anything to add to that. And it looks like you can also verify migration. Let's see, how do you do this? So, um, so how we add default value? So we can do right here. When you do add column, you can say default and then put something in here. So this won't work because, well, now I have to do, basically I have to do it again. I have to do like a new file here called like two. I don't know. Or I don't know, how do I do this? Oh, here, let's do this. Hold on. Let's do default testing. Let's clear app data. And let's run this again, and now we'll see the default should work. I could just drop the column, but instead I'll just drop the database. Um, yeah, you're, I guess, closer to the metal, or like you're working more with the raw SQL than relying on like the annotation processing, which is cool. Oh, interesting. So when I deleted the database and reran it, it looked like it only built version 1 because my migration column isn't there. So what happens if I run this again? I guess that makes sense because I'm not migrating from anything. Wait a minute. Why don't I see my new column? Is it default value? I thought it was just default. Add column with default values. Yeah, text default. Oh, wait, here, hold on. No, I think it's just default. Um, Making a mistake is probably more common, yes. Although the autocomplete is pretty good. So there's that. Let me kill the app maybe and then see. Maybe I'm confusing it. Maybe I don't know because. Okay, let's try this. We're going to cut this. We're going to delete this file entirely, and we're going to start this migration process over again. Whoops, no, not what I want. No, you should be able to web check. I think that I'm confusing SQLite by like having this migration in here, but there's no migration to happen when I run this from the start. Maybe, I'm guessing. I'm not really sure. I don't know. That doesn't make sense either, because then how would new people install the app and how would they know what to get? Okay, so let's. Maybe you can't do a default. Maybe that is wrong. Oh no, now it's there. Huh. I don't know what the issues were before. But it looks like there's some stuff in the docs on how you can, well, you could write your migrations in code if you wanted. Um, there's also some ways to validate them. Uh, I'm curious what they have for testing, so I want to look at this. So in some tests, you might wish to swap out the Android driver with the JVM driver, enabling you to test code involving the database without needing an Android emulator or physical device. That's cool. So interesting. So in our Hilt thing, where we just use like the Android SQLite driver, we could create like a JVM driver and then create a database from that, pass that into here, and then we could write test for this on the JVM. Should we try to do that? Um, just for fun? Right, that's what I meant. Yeah. Let's try it just for fun. Okay, so let's do insert read task. Um, Wait, why is this yelling at me? Oh, wait, hold on. I don't want this to... Hold on. What did I do wrong? I don't want this to be... I don't think I need to do anything. I think the problem is I selected JUnit something when I didn't mean to. Let me delete this real quick. My ID is not doing what I want it to do. Uh, SQLDELIGHT path list repository. Oh, I also think I created the room one when I meant to create the SQLDELIGHT one. Yeah, JUnit 4. Okay, I think that's what was confusing it, is I was using the room one and it was... Have a good night, Raphael. Okay, let's do at test, fun, insert read task. We'll do run blocking test because we'll have a thing here. Okay, so test task will be task. ID will be 123. Description will be testing. And then scheduled date will be today. I'll take a look at that in a second. I'm going to try to do it right from their docs, but I think I know what I need to do here. So, um, I think I need to add this for the test implementation. Um, and then we just need this line for the driver. So, and then we can do database will be, oh god, do I need to run a build? Um, Hold on. Uh, oh, that's the one. Yeah, database driver. And then, so here, our repository, I think of using the Gradle versions catalog in the future. I don't know much about it. I use a different plugin for checking for like out-of-date dependencies. Is that what that's for? Um, so I've seen that as a new solution, but I'm not too familiar with it. And I already use something else that checks for out-of-date dependencies for me. Okay, I don't know what the Gradle versions catalog is. Can you drop a link? I'll check it out. Um, SQLDELIGHT path list repository, and then task queries will be database.task queries. So let's do repository.insert task, add task, test task. And so here we'll do this. So result, we'll do repository dot fetch all tasks. Can you do that first on a flow? You can. Um, so let's do first result will be repository dot fetch all tasks dot first. Um, so we'll do first result as result dot success. I'll take a look at that as soon as I finish this task real quick. And then here we'll just run some assertions. So assert that first task dot ID that is equal to 123. Assert that first task dot description that is equal to testing, and then we'll also do assert that first task dot scheduled date is equal to local date dot now. Okay, so this is a standard JVM unit test that verifies I can insert and read from my database. And if this is true, that's huge because this is actually very huge because um, doing this with room would be a lot more complicated, like a lot more complicated, and it would require starting up a physical device and stuff. Okay, that failed. Let's see if we can understand why. Because it could entirely be by fault. Uh, SQL error missing database. No such table SQLDELIGHT task. Why not? Did I miss a step? Oh, do I need this call? Maybe. Let's try with that. This job has not completed yet. I guess that's probably expected by the way I run this, um, because the flow never closes. Can I close it? Can I do like I don't know if I can close the connection or like I can do driver dot close. So I think my test passed, and the problem was I never closed the connection. So like it's just that flow is like always running or something. Huh. I'm not really sure. It probably has to do with the fact that I'm consuming a flow. No, the as flow happens inside the repository class. Um, and this add task should run quickly. Does that run? Let's see. Okay, so that works. Um, but so when I do fetch all tasks and then I call dot first, that seems to kind of hang. I thought that you could do that in a test. Can you do like two lists or something? Um, I guess like I could collect. Can I do this? Maybe I could do like collect and then after the first one, we do driver dot close or something like that. Let's try this. I don't know if this is the best way to write a test, but it's a start. And we do have the turbine library from, you don't need it, but it's helpful. And we do have the turbine library actually. This job is not completed yet. Huh. Does this ever happen now? That's what I want to know. Like, do I need to open the flow before I add a task to see it update? Let's see if someone has tried to do this. Oh, so this ran. This did work. Um, so I bet you if I used turbine, which would clean up the flow, that would actually work better. So let's try that. So if we do query.fetch all tasks, um, that test, um, oh god, I'm freezing. Oh, because you're still running. Ex Isn't it expect most recent item? Await item. Thank you. I knew there was something. Um, or rather, first result. So then we could do all this stuff, and then can we do cancel and ignore remaining events? Will that do it? And do I need to be in run blocking test? I think I did, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, so we use turbine, we call dot test. We await the first item, we make our assertions, and then we cancel and ignore remaining events. See if that works without that passed. So we could say testing SQLDELIGHT calls. That's cool. And that's nice and fast. Like way faster. So that's another plus. No, it's okay, Prince. I actually think that with that, we are ready to call it a night. I'm not going to do any more either. So, um, stop trying to do work. Go get some sleep. I should do the same. I didn't get a lot of work done today. Oops. So I will probably try to get up early and do some work. But thank you all for joining us. Hope you had some fun learning about databases and Android. I already woke up. Yeah, y'all are crazy. I'm hoping that I can do more streams soon. I don't have plans for it right now, but maybe it's something we can add. Yeah, of course, Webcheck. I hope it was interesting. Let me know if you try it out more, and any interesting edge cases you find or like use cases that you find. Um, KTOR is not like on my immediate plans, but it's definitely something I can look at. But let's see if there's someone we could raid tonight. Oh, you know what? Let's go check out Coco Type. So this is someone a while ago I was looking at let me pull this up real quick. A while ago I was looking for other mobile dev folks and I found Coco Type. I don't remember the name, but they are a they stream an iOS app that they're working on. So we will go give some love to the other side of the mobile community. Let me click start raid real quick. Um, and we'll have to wait like 10 seconds, of course. Um, but once it does, you should all be able to go. So let's go give Coco Type some love. And let's not be too Android mean about it. We'll go give them some love and see what they build again. Um, and I will see all of you next Wednesday.
What was it?